Honorable Speaker, out of the 656, some were actually in support of the nominees and therefore inadmissible because the law expects this section 6 subsection 9 principle. 5 is that the
how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well and strive to make it.
I've mentioned here that have not been exhaustively, as you'll see in the report, been addressed, because we are obligated to do that by our own statutes, that we must address each of the issues that have been raised in memoranda. Honorable Speaker, additionally, 163 affidavits contested the nomination of 10 nominees on grounds that they had previously been dismissed from office and hence they could not lawfully be reappointed to cabinet. Honorable Speaker, to this end, the committee observed that Articles 132, Sub-Article 2, and Article 152, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution of Kenya vest the power to constitute the cabinet solely on the President. The committee also observed that the nominees were not dismissed under the provisions of Article 75(2) of the Constitution and were therefore not disqualified from holding any other state office. Honorable Speaker, that point was canvassed in committee, and I know even in other fora outside the committee, this matter has been canvassed. And it was a finding of the committee, Honorable Speaker, that any of the nominees who has not been dismissed pursuant to Article 75(2) is not excluded from being reappointed after dismissal by His Excellency the President, and I think that was important to be clear. True, Honorable Speaker, the word dismissal is in line with the provisions of Article 152(2). And members, if you read that article, you will see that the article says the President may dismiss or reassign cabinet secretaries. Therefore, there is no option under the current Constitution to suspend or to ask someone to step aside. He can only dismiss you or reassign you. And when the President chose, as is stipulated under Article 132, it is prerogative to appoint and dismiss cabinet. When he chose to dismiss, in the words that are stipulated in the Constitution, he was well within his powers to do that, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, there is no legal provision that bars the President from reappointing any person who has been indicted as being unfit to hold office under Article 75 of the Constitution or any relevant law. In respect of the age, Honorable Speaker, the committee observed that the nominee, the Honorable Justin Bidan Muturi, had not been dismissed as AG, but had resigned in accordance with Section 11 of the Office of the Attorney General Act in consultation with the President to give the President an opportunity to reorganize his government as evidenced by Gazette Notice number 8440 of 12 July 2024. Honorable Speaker, the committee also conducted background checks on the nominees by seeking references from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission on Ethics and Integrity, the Higher Education Loans Board on loan repayments for those who had gone through our public and private universities and funded from the Exchequer, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and Criminal Records on each of the nominees, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, on holding office in political parties, because as honorable members do know, not a single nominee who is being nominated to serve in cabinet should be holding a political party office. And indeed, those that did hold political office, like the Honorable John Badi, the Honorable Ali Hassan Joho, the Honorable Ambetsa Oparanya, had evidence that they had indeed resigned from their party positions in ODM, the oldest party in our nascent democracy, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we also did get from KRA on tax compliance and the Commission of University Education on authenticity of academic certificates. And Honorable Speaker, it's important because I've seen many people doubting certain degrees, that in each of the degrees that were submitted to the committee, the Commission for University Education ascertained that those degrees and degree courses that the nominees submitted before the committee are recognized in the Republic of Kenya as degrees. Honorable Speaker, in considering the suitability of nominees for appointment, the committee paid due regard to the constitutional and statutory requirements relating to the offices in question and whether the nominees' abilities, their experience, and qualities met the needs of the said offices. Further, Honorable Speaker, the committee was guided by the constitutional and statutory requirements, such as our national values and principles of governance, the conduct of state officers, specific qualifications for appointment as cabinet secretaries, leadership and integrity prerequisites. And Honorable Speaker, it is in this light, Honorable Speaker, that we have recommended, having looked at the suitability of the nominees as was assessed after scrutiny of their background, their academic credentials, as I said, their professional qualifications, their work and professional experience, their personal integrity, as well as their performance during the approval hearings. The committee observed and recommended that all the 19 nominees listed, Honorable Speaker, without having to repeat the names in the interest of time, so that I allow members adequate time to consider all these nominees and have time to debate. That, Honorable Speaker, all the 21, including the Attorney General, the former Attorney General, Justin Bidan Muturi, Stella Soy, Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, Alfred Nganga Mutua, that out of the 21 nominees, Honorable Speaker, that were submitted to the House, and I said I don't want to read all the names because they are already there on the motion, that we consider for approval the 20 and reject the approval of only one nominee, Ms. Stella Soy Langat. Honorable Speaker, in vetting and in considering the approval of these nominees, Honorable Speaker, the 20 nominees are recommended for approval to take office if approved by this House, Honorable Speaker, because all that the Appointments Committee has done is to consider and vet them for approval of the 20 nominees and to reject the nomination of Stella Soy Langat, who had been nominated for appointment to the Ministry of Gender, Culture, and Arts and Heritage. This lady, Honorable Speaker, is a career civil servant who has extensive experience in public service. However, Honorable Speaker, she did not demonstrate adequate understanding of the docket to which she had been nominated, and the committee found her unsuitable for appointment to that docket. Honorable Speaker, I want to draw reference to members on the report on page 238, Honorable Speaker, and you will see from the observations of the committee on observation number 8 on page 238, the committee did note that the nominee's experience in the public service is marked by very frequent job transitions in various roles. All the 6 different postings
Give the majority leader 5 minutes.
I was winding up, Honorable Speaker. I was saying that the nominee's experience in the public service was marked by very frequent job transitions in various roles. All the 6 different postings that the nominee has held do not require any long-term strategic planning. As a result, she has not become grounded in any specific leadership role in the public service. And therefore, it was the feeling of the committee that if you had a nominee like this serving in a high office like that of Cabinet Secretary, she may not sit well to serve the public in a manner envisaged by our statutes and the expectations of the public. True, Honorable Speaker, that the nominee under 9 failed to demonstrate adequate knowledge of topical administrative and technical issues touching on the Ministry of Gender, Culture and Arts and Heritage, to which she had been nominated. Honorable Speaker, those who are watching, we remember a few of the unfortunate mentions of our honorable ladies without husbands, and this being a gender ministry, Honorable Speaker, it was a feeling of many people across the country that she may not sit well to address gender issues in that ministry. True, Honorable Speaker, that the nominee is unsuitable for the position to which she was nominated, as she was unable to respond to in a satisfactory manner to the queries raised during the approval hearing relating to gender, heritage, and culture. Honorable Speaker, I will also want to close, Honorable Speaker, by asking members that being nominated to this high office of a Cabinet Secretary is indeed a great honor. And Honorable Speaker, once members of the public or even members of Parliament like the Honorable Andai, Honorable Mbadi, and even the former governors who have been nominated to serve in this high office of Cabinet Secretary have been nominated, it is our solemn duty as members of the National Assembly to vet all these nominees, check their suitability to hold office. There may be a feeling, Honorable Speaker, that this or that nominee may not sit well in a certain docket. But again, in line with Article 152(2) of the Constitution, the prerogative to reassign dockets is vested on the President. And Honorable Speaker, I know there are feelings that probably this particular person, his qualifications, his experience would sit better in another ministry than the ministry they have been nominated to. And it was our feeling, Honorable Speaker, in the Committee of Appointments, that we do leave that to the President in his own prerogative to realign and reassign dockets as time may demand, and also as he may find fit in terms of where he wants to sit his nominees and his cabinet secretaries in an endeavor to deliver to the people of Kenya. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, on behalf of the committee, allow me to thank all the nominees for offering themselves to serve the country. And in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., who once said that life's most urgent question is what you are doing for others. As leaders, Honorable Speaker, we should always be guided by what is best for the people of Kenya. The House is mandated to either approve or reject nomination for appointment based on suitability, and the outcome can be either an approval or rejection. An approval simply signifies a committee established that a person is suitable for the office to which he has been nominated. In the same lens, Honorable Speaker, a rejection. Honorable Speaker.
Order, members. Order. Kiborek.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying, in the same lens, a rejection only connotes a person's unsuitability to the office to which he or she is being nominated, and is in no way an indictment of the capability or competence of a nominee to perform other responsibilities. I say this, Honorable Speaker, with all due respect to the nominee, Ms. Stella Soy, that her rejection is not an indictment in any way of her capability or competence to perform other responsibilities. It is only her suitability to hold the position of Cabinet Secretary for Gender. And therefore, His Excellency the President has the prerogative to nominate her into any other position other than that position that she had been nominated for. And the president is also has the prerogative to nominate another person from the same region, the same area, the same village.
Give him 2 minutes.
I would encourage the president to nominate another equally qualifying candidate from the same region, the same place, and as I said, with requisite experience and qualifications to serve, someone suitable to serve in that office. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I now beg to move and ask all of you honorable members, all of you, in one accord, to support this report where we all put in a lot of man hours up to late this morning, Honorable Speaker, when we adopted this report, having considered all the issues that came before the committee. And I am confident once approved, this new cabinet and those that will be vetting this Friday, and if we adopt this report as it is, when a replacement for this lady is nominated and vetted, we'll have a cabinet that, in the words of Martin Luther King, will serve the people and will look at what they can do for others, not for themselves, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move and take this opportunity to ask all of you to support this report, as I request my counterpart and my good friend, the Honorable Junet Mohammed. I don't know whether he is now the minority whip or the incoming leader of minority, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me opportunity. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I stand to second the motion, Mr. Speaker, for the approval of the nominees. And Mr. Speaker, also support the motion, because, Mr. Speaker, this is, as you said earlier, constitutional responsibility of this House to make sure that this country has a cabinet secretary, Mr. Speaker. As you are aware, Mr. Speaker, previously, before this constitution, the president used to appoint cabinet ministers as he wishes and dismiss them as he wishes, Mr. Speaker. But now, under this new constitution, there is a requirement, constitutional requirement, that any nominee that has been brought by the president must be approved by this House. And today we are here, Mr. Speaker, exercising that constitutional mandate. And that's why I want to urge my colleagues to take this matter of the approval very serious, Mr. Speaker. The confirmation of cabinet nominees, Mr. Speaker, is not just a procedural, Mr. Speaker, formality, but it's a vital process that shapes the trajectory of the governance of our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, long time, and you are a veteran politician as you are a lawyer. Mr. Speaker, the president used to nominate anybody if he feels like. Whether you are academically qualified, whether you have the experience, doesn't matter. Even if you have never stepped in a classroom, Mr. Speaker, the president has the prerogative to appoint you as a minister. But at this point in time in this country, Mr. Speaker, you will be nominated and Parliament will look at your suitability and whether you have the capacity to perform, Mr. Speaker. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, these nominees went through rigorous evaluation, Mr. Speaker, and looked at the experiences, Mr. Speaker. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you as the chairman of the committee, because this committee has put a lot of man-hour into this matter, Mr. Speaker, took a lot of time to scrutinize these members, Mr. Speaker. And every nominee appeared before the committee in person, and all questions have been put across to them, and a lot of them answered, Mr. Speaker, satisfactorily as per the report of the committee. But, Mr. Speaker, the question that we need to ask ourselves is that why are we in this situation at this point in time, Mr. Speaker? Why are we vetting ministers again mid-term, Mr. Speaker, when the term of the election has not ended, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we have found ourselves in this situation because of our own making, Mr. Speaker. And one of the things that has come out in the vetting process is that the issue that has brought us to this situation was captured very well in our vetting process, Mr. Speaker. And we captured that the issue of arrogance, opulence, and show-off, Mr. Speaker. And we put those questions to the nominees. And majority of them took their time to answer that question, Mr. Speaker, and told us that they are not people of show-off.
Order, members. Order. Members on the majority side, try and minimize your levels and tones of conversation so
Mr.
that
Speaker,
we can follow the proceedings.
Mr. Speaker, members of the majority side, some of them are being disturbed by what has happened in the vetting committee, the rejection of one of the nominees, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we must have a vetting committee. And what the committee has done must be taken very serious, Mr. Speaker. The committee spent many man-hours to check on the suitability of every candidate, Mr. Speaker. And the committee is not doing any victimization. The committee is not doing any victimization. The committee did their work in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of the country, Mr. Speaker. The Parliamentary Approval Act, Mr. Speaker. If a nominee is incompetent, the committee cannot say anything other than that he is incompetent or she is incompetent, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Order. Member for Keyo South. Order. Take your seat, Junet. Member for Keyo South. I'll give you an opportunity to have your say. This is not a public rally. This is the National Assembly of Kenya. The right for everybody to say what they are saying corresponds with the right for everybody to listen to those who are saying. Just listen to your colleagues, you'll also be listened to in the same decorum.
Mr. Speaker, when we say as a committee that someone is not suitable for this job, we are not imputing any improper motive on that person, Mr. Speaker. We are just saying that person is not suitable for this job. He can do another job elsewhere, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we are not here in this National Assembly to defend and protect anyone. We are just here to say the truth as it is, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the committee found majority of the nominees to be suitable for the job they have been given. Mr. Speaker, it is this House that can hold people accountable. We cannot hold members accountable outside this House, Mr. Speaker. It is our constitutional mandate to hold people accountable here, Mr. Speaker. What is the point of sending someone to a job and after a year and 2 years again, you have to recruit again afresh, Mr. Speaker, like what is happening now, Mr. Speaker? We must take our job very serious this time because the ministers that we vetted at the beginning of this term were assumed that they are going to finish their term up to the election, Mr. Speaker. But they couldn't do. Out of 22 cabinet ministers who are in office, almost over 10 of them are not in office as we speak today, Mr. Speaker. 10 of them are at home.
Give him another 5 minutes.
More than half of the cabinet that was vetted by this House, Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of the term are at home. They have all been dropped because of reasons, incompetency, and other issues. So, Mr. Speaker, it is the prerogative of this House to decide who is going to be approved and who is not going to be approved. But we must take the report of the committee very serious because the committee did public participation. They interviewed the nominees, they listened to them, they looked at their CVs, they looked at their compliance documents, they looked at their physical appearance, they looked at their mental everything, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge this House, let us not belittle the report of the committee. The committee report is as important as what we are going to decide here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other issue I want to say is that we looked very much on the issue of integrity and accountability, Mr. Speaker. There were allegations that have been raised by certain members. There were issues that were raised against, for example, a nominee, Honorable Oparanya, Mr. Speaker. Issues of corruption, and we clarified, we said that the EACC has written, and the Director of Public Prosecution wrote to Parliament and said that there are no charges against that nominee, Mr. Speaker. And based on that, we made a decision. And himself, he appeared there and said, if there is any iota of evidence on him, on allegations of corruption, he is willing to resign, even if he's appointed, Mr. Speaker. Issues of drugs were raised about Hassan Ali Joe. The Minister for Interior, by then George Saitoti, came here and brought a report against him. Later, a report was brought to Parliament a week later that cleared him, Mr. Speaker. We looked into all those issues, Mr. Speaker, and we cleared all those people. Issues of opulence, sideshow, what's it called? Arrogance, and short of leveled against Honorable Murkomen. We looked at him, he came with a tie and a suit that did not look very expensive for that day. He should not put on another one going forward. He should continue with the same ones that he came to the committee, Mr. Speaker. And it was clear of those points, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we looked at the issues of commitment to public service, Mr. Speaker. Most of the nominees showed high level of commitment to public duty, Mr. Speaker. You could see the way they were answering the questions, and they said that they are willing and ready to serve the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say this. There is nothing that stops this House to impeach any CS who does not perform his functions again. That responsibility again is with us here, Mr. Speaker. And the day a CS nominee does not perform his functions in accordance with the Constitution and in accordance with the wishes of Kenyans, we have the responsibility again to remove him from office and to impeach him. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the nominees that once you assume office, Mr. Speaker, kindly have in mind what Kenyans expect of you, Mr. Speaker. We interviewed the nominee for Interior, Mr. Speaker, and we told him there are many complaints about deaths in this country when people are demonstrating. He has to make sure, he has to put into consideration the sanctity of life, Mr. Speaker, that Kenyans must not die for exercising their freedoms and rights, Mr. Speaker. Demonstration is allowed in the country, but also the rights of other Kenyans must be respected when somebody is doing a demonstration, Mr. Speaker. So we have looked at everything and everything that is possible, and we have concluded that 19 nominees are suitable for office. Mr. Speaker, what I am proud of today, Mr. Speaker, are my colleagues, whom I was with them in the same party, who have joined now the executive, Mr. Speaker. It has proved to me that the Raila Odinga Academy School of Politics is the best school of politics in this country, Mr. Speaker. Look at the kind of nominees they have donated to the executive, Mr. Speaker. Hassan Ali Joho, Oparanya, Upio Wandai, and Mbadi, Mr. Speaker. Those are the best nominees this country can have, Mr. Speaker. The best experts this country can have, Mr. Speaker. When they appeared before the committee, Mr. Speaker, the committee was perplexed. They said, we didn't know ODM have this kind of expertise, Mr. Speaker. We thought ODM is just hecklers and people who throw stones, people who make noise in this town, Mr. Speaker. But now we have proved to Kenyans and to the public and to this House that the best expertise is found in ODM, Mr. Speaker. Those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Honorable members. Order. Take your seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Committee on Appointments and its second report on the vetting of the nominees for appointment to the offices of Cabinet Secretaries, laid on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 7th August 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 152(2) of the Constitution and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House, 1, approves the appointment of the following persons as Cabinet Secretaries. Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, EGH, Ministry of Interior and National Administration. We are not calling a vote. I'm proposing a question. Dr. Deborah Mulongo Barasa, Minister of Health. Honorable Alice Wahome, EGH, Minister of Trade, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development. Mr. Julius Migos Ogamba, EBS, Minister of Education. Honorable Rosalinda Soipan Tuya, EGH, Minister of Defense. Dr. Andrew Mwihia Karanja, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Honorable Aden Bare Duale, EGH, Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. Mr. Eric Murithi Muga, Minister of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Mr. Davis Chirchir, EGH, Minister of Roads and Transport. Dr. Margaret Nyambura Ndungu, Minister of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy. Honorable John Bandi Ngongo, EGH, the National Treasury and Economic Planning. Honorable Salim Muvuria Mugala, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. Ms. Rebecca Miano, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. Honorable James Opio Wandai, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. Honorable Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports. Honorable Ali Hassan Ali Joho, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. Honorable Dr. Alfred Nganga Mutua, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Labor and Social Protection. Honorable Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSME Development. Honorable Justin Bedan Njoka Muturi, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Public Service and Human Capital Development. And Roman 2 rejects the appointment of Ms. Stella Soy Langat as the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Gender, Culture, the Arts and Heritage. Washira Karani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
It's called to speak. You have all agreed to talk for 3 minutes.
Correct.
So compose your thoughts and deliver your point in 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to support the report by the committee on the nominations of various persons to the cabinet. I am particularly impressed, Mr. Speaker, by the first candidate, the nominee for internal security. I want to declare here in this parliament, I come from Laikipia, where in the past we have been having a lot of incidents of insecurity. Our people have been living in hell. But since that person was appointed cabinet secretary in 2022, he has calmed the area. In my area, Mr. Speaker, people used to be killed, animals stolen, women raped, others maimed, but things have changed. I'm sure even the members who come from North Rift will agree with me that things have changed in our region. This is one cabinet secretary, Mr. Speaker, who speaks very little, but does a lot. In the past, a previous government, we had in a similar position somebody who was very, very boastful. He would talk a lot, he would shout, but eventually he was doing very little. Today things have changed. I remember some time back, Mr. Speaker, the previous cabinet secretary in the previous government came to my place. People had been killed, and he talked very, very, very tough. He said he will bring us commandos who will be working with us there, and such incidents will never be repeated. But the same night, Mr. Speaker, when the cabinet secretary took his plane and went back to Nairobi, bandits descended on our area. They killed 7 people. They carried a lot of livestock. Today things are different. I therefore support Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Wilberforce Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand here to support the report of the Committee on Appointments. Honorable Speaker, while I have many reservations on some of the nominees that were proposed in this report, but since the committee mandated by this Parliament and the Constitution of Kenya has done its job, it will be utterly unfair to contradict what they have done. Honorable Speaker, of course there are members who have been proposed with dubious academic papers, light academic qualifications, but that's what the appointing authority wanted. And I want to quote what Honorable John Mbadi said here when we were vetting the first cabinet, that since he wanted a skunk, let's give him the skunk, and I hope he'll not have to come back again seeking another line of support. Honorable Speaker, on the rejected committee members, having read through the report, Honorable Speaker, from paragraph 1065 all the way to the end, Honorable Speaker, nobody has got any issues about the qualification of the nominee. But look at the answers given in respect of very pertinent issues concerning gender, Honorable Speaker. I concur with the committee that she's not qualified for this particular assignment, and it will be probably prudent for the appointing authority to consider other assignments. And I would actually suggest, Honorable Speaker, since she has extensive knowledge in public administration, probably to be prudent for the President to swap her with Bedan Muturi, so that he can go and handle that particular aspect, and so that Bedan Muturi can actually come to gender. Because, Honorable Speaker, there is a very growing misconception, Honorable Speaker, that gender is about women. Gender is about both men and men and women. Gender is about boys and girls. Why is it all the time, Honorable Speaker, when they appoint a gender CS, they only look for a woman? So that's why we continue to marginalize the boy child, we continue to frustrate the men, and that's why you see there is mental health issues in this country. It's time, Honorable Speaker, if we talk about gender, let's be gender sensitive, let's not be gender discriminative. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, we are vetting these cabinet secretaries to go and serve the people of Kenya as provided in the Constitution. Yes, they serve at the pleasure of the President, but they must know they are serving the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya are represented by this President who are here. We hope they will not go to the office and block members of Parliament from accessing to present issues affecting the people of Kenya. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the report.
William Kamket.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the report of the committee. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this, that the President took the opportunity to reorganize his cabinet mid-term, and that the opportunity that was presented to the President is an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, that was caused by some riots in this country. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that His Excellency the President is a lucky man. Because, Mr. Speaker, if the happenings that happened in this country did not happen the way they happened, Mr. Speaker, perhaps His Excellency would have limped with the same group towards a very dangerous road ahead as we move towards the next election. So I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the appointments of the members of cabinet, that includes the members of the opposition, is something that has given this country a fresh impetus and a fresh start. And the President has demonstrated that indeed he listens, Mr. Speaker, and that, Mr. Speaker, that he has a big heart. That even in victory, Mr. Speaker, he has been magnanimous and has offered an olive branch to the members of the opposition to come and serve together with him in the same cabinet. And that demonstrates one thing, Mr. Speaker, that we are all Kenyans. At the end of the day, even if we agree or disagree on anything or on any matter, we are all Kenyans. And that there is only one country that we all belong to. This is the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to echo what the Honorable Member for Laikipia West said. Mr. Speaker, I want to single out the Minister, the nominee for Interior. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that gentleman has done a good job in the North Rift. Where I come from, whatever measures he has put in place, I am happy, Mr. Speaker, that he has been given a second chance to come and finish the job he began. Mr. Speaker, sir, with those few remarks, I beg to support, Mr. Speaker.
Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support the report with also a very heavy heart, Mr. Speaker, that it is always women who come are vetted and will always find themselves in the situation Soy is finding herself. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, I think it is important to understand that we are coming from a very delicate situation. I want to appreciate all the nominees, and I just want to tell them this. You come at a time when Kenyans felt those who have gone home became very proud, never understood who was at the gate, never understood whether they have challenges. They are human beings. Learn to appreciate your team, starting from even your T-girl, that you are able even just to ask, how is she or how is he? And Mr. Speaker, those are the few things, just small values that Kenyans feel, even us, that when you get a title, you get entitled and you think you have now become beyond the president. They should remember we have a president. They have gone to support the president. He has not appointed you to become another president in your ministry. He has appointed you to come and serve now his Kenyans. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, even as we say we have 3 minutes in this report, one thing I'll say, we have to change the Appointments Act and put in very serious questions that we need to ask this country. That when you come and say my wealth is this amount, it is always good to expound so that Kenyans don't start thinking, oh, you are doing tenders with government, or that is why you have made your money, or this. No, just expound and explain. But we cannot right now blame the nominees. We can only blame our act the way it is. And so it's important to really amend. We will want to know whether in the neighborhood that you stay, are you a member of the association within your neighborhood? How do you relate with your neighbors? Because you are coming to handle people. And that is the other thing Kenyans were really crying. So I support it, and I say it is time that they know it is time to work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Rindikiri.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to associate myself with the report of the committee, and I say from the outlet, we need to support this report. Mr. Speaker, I have studied part of the report, and I've picked 2 reports I was very keen on, and one of them is the CS nominee for water, sanitation, and irrigation. Mr. Speaker, when we all watched Mr. Eric articulate the issues of water, I came to a conclusion that this is a nominee who is ready to study. It's a nominee who is ready, demonstrating the potential to learn more and to lead the ministry. Mr. Speaker, let this nominee be a good example to other young people who are professionals, who are ready to steer. He is not a pollutant candidate. I support that nomination. Mr. Speaker, I really truly identify myself with Professor Kindeki. Mr. Speaker, this is the CS who has put his life in danger. He has visited all the dangerous zones of this country. We know there are zones where the banditry, Al-Shabaab, etc., etc. Mr. Speaker, if one has demonstrated taking a risk, being in the combat front, Mr. Speaker, that is a very nice nomination. Mr. Speaker, he is a person who is available. When you call him, he turns your calls. Mr. Speaker, he writes back and he says he is going to refer back. Mr. Speaker, This is one cabinet secretary who has welcomed members of parliament and the public in its office. I remember, Mr. Speaker, when the cattle wrestling became very intensive in Meru, he came to hold Balasas himself. He is one person, Mr. Speaker, who keeps his promises. Mr. Speaker, as we nominate, we want to enhance the position of the CS. Mr. Speaker, we need as a house to address the operation of the security system. The Inspector General of Police is a center of weakness. Mr. Speaker, we have to address that because many people see the weaknesses of Kentucky because of the weakness of the Inspector General. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I support.
Zamzam.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kuchangia mada ya leo ya mawaziri ambao wameweza kuteuliwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza natoa support yangu kubwa na kuweza kuwapongeza kamati ambayo iliwafanyia vetting. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi leo nina furaha kubwa kuweza kusema kuwa tumepata waziri ambaye atatusaidia sana katika mining na blue economy. Mheshimiwa Spika.
Yes, Chonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the Parliament also gives us an opportunity to learn more about language. Is it in order for the member to use both Kiswahili and English? Because nataka kupongeza ile vetting. I think vetting is in English. Tungetaka kujua kwa Kiswahili. In Kiswahili, what is vetting, Mr. Speaker? So that we can learn more of what she has. Thank you, Speaker.
Zamzam.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, zote lugha mbili zinakubalika katika taifa. Na Mheshimiwa Kenchonga, wakati tuna mada muhimu kama hii, sisi tumepata kiongozi jasiri sana. Wakati mwingine usinizuilie dadako kuzungumza na nitoa mastimu. Mheshimiwa Spika, napenda kusema kuwa
Mr. Speaker, I know my sister is a first timer. But what we know that, just a moment, what I know, you either express yourself in English or express yourself in Kiswahili, but you cannot mix the two, Mr. Speaker. And if that is the trajectory that is going to be, kindly, Mr. Speaker, give a ruling to the same.
Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members. Order. Order, Owen Bayer. Take your seats. Honorable Chonga, linguistic development is not limited. You can, when you contribute here, if you start in English, you must finish in English. If you start in Swahili, you can finish in Swahili. You must finish in Swahili. But in between, that's not what he's saying. Picking a word vetting and inserting it in a Kiswahili prose does not deviate from the norm of starting with one language and veering on. For the simple reason that we even have words like safari in English. It's a Swahili word. And you can be talking in English, say safari, and somebody stands up like Chonga and says you have gone into Kiswahili. So Mama Zamzam is perfectly in order. You never can tell in another 10 years, vetting might find itself in the kamusi ya Kiswahili.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na naomba dakika zangu 3. Mheshimiwa Spika, niweze kwanza kuchukua fursa hii kumpongeza Rais wa taifa hili Mheshimiwa William Samoei Ruto kuweza kutuchukulia ndugu yetu wa Pwani Hassan Ali Joho kama waziri wa madini na uchumi samawati. Mheshimiwa Spika, Hii ni wizara ambayo imeshika sana sehemu kubwa na uchumi mkubwa wa taifa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na mimi naamini kuwa weledi wake wa uongozi, vile tunavyomjua, ataweza kuhakikisha kuwa madini yanaleta faida kubwa sana katika taifa, na kuhakikisha kuwa wale watu wanaokaa sehemu ambayo tunatoa haya madini wanaweza kupata haki yao, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna wakati katika taifa hili Mheshimiwa Hassan Ali Joho alikuwa kisimangwa, na mimi nataka nimpongeze kiongozi wa wengi kusema kuwa watoto wengi wako darasani, Mheshimiwa Spika, na wengi kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa karo na mambo mengi ambayo yanawatoa darasani, Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi hawakuweza kufanya vizuri katika masomo. Lakini hiyo haikuwa mwisho, na nimpongeze ndugu yangu Hassan Ali Joho, aliweza kuigeuza, akaweza kujisomesha mwenyewe, na sasa anafanya masters, Mheshimiwa Spika, na na uhakika kuwa ataweza kufanya kazi kwa uweledi na kuongoza taifa la Kenya liweze kwenda mbele, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi namuombea Mungu aweze kumtangulia mbele, na najua na nguvu na uwezo wa kuweza kufanya wizara ya madini na uchumi samawati uweze kuinuka, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, niongelee pia huyu dada yetu Mheshimiwa Stella ambaye ameweza kuwekwa kando, Mheshimiwa Spika. Hii ni wizara ya kina mama, na wizara ya kina mama inataka kiongozi ambaye ama waziri ambaye anatuelewa zaidi kwa nini kwanza tulipata wizara hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa dhahiri kuwa dada yangu Stella hakuweza kuelewa hii docket ilikuwa inazungumzia nini, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na ndio maana tunasema, najua ilikuwa inatolewa katika region tofauti, hata wale ambao wametoka kule waweza kutuletea mama mwingine ambaye amepigwa msasa vizuri, anaweza kuhudumu katika hii wizara bila kuleta sintofahamu, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo hii list nyingine yote mimi naisupport, Mheshimiwa Spika, na napenda kusema Hassan Joho, chapa kazi, tuko nyuma yako. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Spika.
Honorable Maclap.
Mr. Speaker, first I rise to support the report of this committee. The question, Mr. Speaker, that we ask ourselves, did we see the vetting committee doing their job? Did they spend time looking and examining the suitability of these nominees? The answer is yes. I don't think in my own sense that the time you spend on Sunday when you are supposed to go to church was in vain. But it was a time to scrutinize people who will serve Kenya regardless of where they come from and their color and their religion. That is what you did on Sunday. Mr. Speaker, when nominees are vetted and brought to this House to be approved or disapproved, Mr. Speaker, once they get favor of this House and be appointed, Mr. Speaker, regardless of where they come from, they will serve all Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, regardless of their communities. I expected the CS for Treasury, one honorable party, to serve the people of Kenya, including Baringo, where we did not have any minister, Mr. Speaker. We expect the Minister Joho to serve all Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. So, ministers that shall get the favor of this House, Mr. Speaker, shall diligently serve the President, the appointing authority, and the people of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. That is underlined, Mr. Speaker. They are not supposed to serve their party leaders, but serve the presidency and the appointing authority and the people of Kenya. That is supposed to be underlined, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, is that ministers that showed performance were rewarded. I come from a county that has been rampaged by banditry, and one Professor Kindiki is a professor of law, but he has excelled in security, Mr. Speaker. Today, the people of Baringo are able to sleep because of how much time Professor Kindiki spent in the bush. In fact, most of the time, you find Kindiki across Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I also call upon the ministers, if they are in favor, Mr. Speaker, of this House, that they need to understand their technocrats who work in the ministries, not to overrun them, not to assume the members of parliament whom we spend a lot of time approving them here and later on try to disobey what we present to them, Mr. Speaker. We are the people's representative. We represent the interest of the people. Any member of parliament that will go to any office of the cabinet secretary, it is no longer business as usual, as you used to do. It is now business to serve the people of Kenya in a manner
that will please Kenya and bring prosperity to this nation. This nation was thriving, Mr. Speaker, but an opportunity has come to correct all the wrong things, including opulence, so that Kenyans will get people who serve them. Mr. Speaker, finally, Mr. Speaker, the government is big. The single
Give him 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker,
1 minute.
Government is big. I asked the appointing authority, find favor, because this lady did not understand, during the vetting did not communicate properly, and suitability was not correct. But the appointing authority find favor to place this lady in any place in government, Mr. Speaker, so that the people where they come from, where they have seen hope, will have hope and continue. And finally ask the appointing authority, find favor and appoint someone from Baringo, a lady, so that this country can move forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Adan Kainan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a representative democracy where the current constitution vests or confers powers to each of the three arms of government. Mr. Speaker, the reason why under the current constitution, pursuant to Article 152, the president nominates, Parliament vets and approves through the participation of the public. Mr. Speaker, what the committee has done is to put into context the constitutional role of each of the three arms of government. Mr. Speaker, having said this, we need to reflect on what has happened to the cabinet that has been dissolved. Mr. Speaker, some of the things that I have noted, and I know you have been around and I've been around, some of the things that I have noted is when you are appointed to a public office, civility is not a sign of cowardice. One of the things that was missing in the just dissolved government was that civility, humility, and humbleness. What I want to ask, to the extent that I saw one of the lady ministers, former, always task her bodyguard to carry her bag. I want to ask and plead with my good sisters, in the African culture, that is an abomination. It's an abomination and should not be allowed. It's actually an abuse of office. Mr. Speaker, having said that, if you see the members here, Mr. Speaker, Article 1 of the Constitution, vests powers.
Lillian Kogo, what's the problem?
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I want to bring it to the attention of my senior that when somebody holds a bag for a woman, it has nothing to do with culture. And we are not going to attack the person of women at their place of work. Men, Honorable Speaker, men don't carry bags, women carry bags. And it could have just been in a state of emergency. So as we discuss the approval of this particular Honorable Kenyans, let us leave women alone.
Honorable Lillian Kogo, that is hypersensitivity, honestly. Because Honorable Kainan did not say men are given bags by women to hold. He said women giving men bags to carry for them because they are their security, and he thinks that is not right. That's his opinion. Go on. And I don't see that as an assault on women.
Thank you. I really respect my good sir. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I say this is because we are Africans. And each one of us, the ladies must be respected, the men must also be respected. The role of a bodyguard is clearly defined in their job description. It's not to carry the bag of anybody, but to take care of the security of that particular individual. Mr. Speaker, having said this, the reason why we have this, and I want to urge those nominees who are likely to approve in the next few, please humble yourselves. This house should not be a conveyor belt for CSs. When we vet them and approve them, we should hold them to the highest standards of accountability. That is the only way the role of this August House will be respected. It's not just a matter of approval, Mr. Speaker. The group who are there, some of them, Mr. Speaker, it was difficult to fix an appointment. It was difficult to get them on telephone. It was difficult to see them. They're like in another world. Once the group who will be approved today, please desist. Otherwise, we'll invoke the provisions of the law to bring you down just the way we approve you today. Mr. Speaker, having said that,
the reason why we have this is because we failed in our constitutional pursuit. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask these members, as we reflect on the dynamics, the change in dynamics, can we think of the Bomas draft? And do you know the provisions? Why did we lose that sanity? What happened? Why did we throw away the role of the member of parliament? I want you to think as we do this, because Kenya is a very dynamic country. Can we think of bringing back the Bomas draft so that the role of the member of parliament, as clearly enshrined in Article 1, is manifested in the management of our nation day-to-day activities? Otherwise, as we are floating. The Speaker, finally, as I conclude this, we have a country. Once you have been appointed, and I want to proudly say, when the young Hassan Joho was elected in 2007, he was my vice chair in the Committee of Defense and Foreign Relations. And I can tell you, regardless of anything that has been said, Hassan Joho remained a resilient, a highly focused, and a well-placed individual in anything that he touched. Even during when he was my vice chair, that is one thing that he clearly demonstrated. But once you are appointed, you are no longer a cost Kingsby in Madam Zamzam. He remains the property of the 50 million Kenyans. And I think now he should move from the coastal politics and contribute to the national well-being of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, for those who have said that the group who have been appointed are products of particular school of thought, I agree. Each one of us remains persuaded by particular group in particular political thought. Mr. Speaker, that notwithstanding, once you have been nominated, once you have been approved, you remain the property of the Republic of Kenya, and wherever you are, whichever ministry, serve the interests of the people of Kenya. And I support the list. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nyakundi. You log in and then you leave. Member for Turkana, is it sent? Member for Nicholas, that's Nicholas Gigor, member for Turkana East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to add my voice in support of this list and the report of the committee which you shared yourself. Mr. Speaker, I've gone through the list, the reports, and what I'm seeing from the report is that all the nominees which the committee they have passed on and brought the report this house, they are Kenyans who, according to the report, will be ready to serve in their respective ministries they have been nominated to head. Mr. Speaker, I will just particularly want to go to specific nominees of different ministries, starting with the nominee for Ministry for Interior. Mr. Speaker, I would like to echo the report from by the committee on this particular nominee, that this man, after being given this position in the first place, and me coming from the region, which is termed as the bandit zone, that is the North Rift. Mr. Speaker, Professor Kindiki had done a great job in the North Rift. And since the time he was given that position in the last appointment, Mr. Kindiki has done a good job in the North Rift. And given this time also to continue in the same docket, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kindiki is going to give the people of the North Rift what they have been looking